Okay, everything is working. So, previous talk was 20 minutes over, so I will go faster. So, today I will talk about Doctest, mostly. Uh, let's go. So first, who am I? Despite the very shameful description she made of me, I'm a human, normal, member of a few teams in the projects. I've been working for a very, very long time on RustDoc. I'm the team leader there. Not to be confused with the documentation, it's the thing that generates the documentation, not the same. I'm on the Doctest team. I suppose most of you already used it at least once, I hope. I'm also on the DevTools team. It's a team having all tool-related teams like Clippy, Docs.rs, RustDoc, everything. And I'm also part of the Clippy contributors team, meaning I don't have the right to merge, but I can close stuff. That's mostly it. And finally, I'm an engineer at Huawei. They pay me for all this work, so thanks to them. So first, before we start, it's better for everyone to know what I'm talking about. So Doctest, what is a Doctest? A Doctest is the little thing with the backtick, the three backticks. So first you have a document, a create document, and after that you have a document, and finally in the document you have the Doctest. All good for everyone. So today I'm supposed to sell you, or more like tell you about a Doctest. So you have a lot of options in Doctest. I just realized I forgot to start my counter. Okay, let's go. So you can test different things, like you might want to check that this Doctest is failing to compile. For example, if you are writing macros or stuff like that, you want to show to people, yeah, you look at this code, it doesn't work. Or maybe you don't want to show to people and just check that it fails to compile. That's something you use often. I don't know how often in the wild, but at least I do. It's quite useful in this case to have internal doc tests, meaning no one can see them, but when you run them, it fails or not. It's exactly as expected, and you can have them. Hopefully, the lib test of Rust one day will allow to have that. That will be very efficient. You might also want to specify which edition you want this doc test to be compiled. By default, it's the same as your current crate, but for reasons you might not want that, so up to you. In case you want to show Rust code, but that is not supposed to compile or to run, you use ignore attribute. In case you just want to check it compiles, you use no run. For example, if you want to do I/O, you don't want that to be done in the doc test. And you also have should panic, which this one ensures that it should panic. And a few others, again, not many times, let's go. So let's take a very small example. So this example is supposed to panic in the 2021 edition. As you can see, it contains the panic, so obviously we should be good. So now we saw some features, let's talk about more features. In case you wanted to wrap your function because you want to use the question mark to make it look nicer and everything, you can start your line with hashtag. Then the line will disappear from the output, but will remain when you test the code. Fun fact, it was terrible to implement and is very terrible. Don't play too much with it. You can use the question mark without wrapping in some very specific case, like if you end with a no key, empty parents and stuff, you can. So you see, completely fine. You can add a custom CSS. Doctest are a wrapper above code blocks, meaning that you can have other languages than Rust. In example, if you are writing a binding for a C, C++ library and you want to show the equivalent code, you might want to have syntax highlighting for it. So you use a custom for CSS for that. And generally, there are JavaScript libraries like highlight.js, not a JavaScript conference, but maybe you heard of it. So that's what you will use. You will say, OK, language-C, and please highlight it. And finally, a nice feature that might not know about is that RustDoc provides two CFG. CFG doc, which is you are running in Rust doc, and Doctest, which is you are running in RustDoc --test. So if you want to run only certain things in this case, like when I was mentioning you want to verify that your macro is not compiling, you can have that only in this case and add your doctest only in this case. So another example. In this case, we add the custom thing. Then we add the CSS class like this. If you wonder about the syntax, it's because it's the most globally available across existing tools, so we pick this one. If it's weird, not our fault, we just want to be compatible. And as promised, you can use the question mark if your code ends with the last line that we hidden. So you have the how to say, the hashtag, the result, okay. So the rest of the code will be wrapped in a function returning a result, which is containing exactly nothing. And you can use your question mark now. So even more options. Again, I'm here to talk about Doctest. You can actually see the output of when your Doctest is compiling. For that, you use --show output. You can use it with cargo with the very long line I provided. Everything is documented in the ResDoc book, so you gotta take a look there. And if you want to add a good attribute to all your Doctest at once, you can use the attribute I provided on top, so doc, test, attr, and in attr, you put everything you want to add. So again, an example. So in this case, we want to warn in case the macro is unused. So if we run that, we will get a warning. Yes. So now we can see the warning and everything. So you have your Doctest, you have the output of your Doctest, and your Doctest is warning about things. Because maybe you didn't know, but we add a few things to allow to not have these warnings by default. We allow a lot of things that allows to have Doctest working most of the time. So now, the interesting part, how do they work? Pretty terribly, but now it's mostly working. So to generate Doctest, we need to check a few things. First, is the code syntax valid? That's actually a very difficult question to answer because your code might be valid, but incomplete, and that's something different. Doesn't seem different, but it's different. So basically, currently, if you write just let in your source code, ResDoc will say, yeah, perfectly fine. Yeah, I see, let, okay, all good. Missing something? No, it's fine. So try to compile that, and then surprise, it will fail, but at the next step. So that's something we need to improve at some point. Is there a main function? Because we need to wrap them because we generate a main function. So when you run it and compile it and everything, you have somewhere to start. And for that, we need to check if your main function is somewhere. And when I mean somewhere, I mean literally anywhere. So if you have a main function inside a very module inside a function inside an implementation, some people do stuff. Yeah, we have to take it into account. It's terrible. Is it using inner attributes? Because if it is, we need to actually handle it. Because again, we are generating a function. So if we have some inner attributes in this function, it might not work. So easiest way to handle it is to move it at the top level. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, we add you a case in the ResDoc to handle this new case. You're welcome. Is it returning a result? Because if it is, again, we need to write, as I showed with the result, colon, okay, everything. Is it importing external crates? This one is only an issue for older Rust versions. In the 2015, for example, you can only put external crates at the top of your crate. Now you can put it literally everywhere, so that's not an issue anymore. We keep it for backward compatibility, something. And finally, is it defining a macro? Because if there is a macro, we need to have a lot more fun checking a few more things. A lot of fun. So let's take an example. So this very small code that you see is literally one line, become this. Not many things, just a main function wrapping everything. The code is wrapped itself inside the function because it's simpler for a few reasons in case you wanted to have a result of a few things. And then we call this function, we return it, we compile that, everything is working, it's perfect. So, of course, limitations that you might be aware of. First, Doctests are extremely slow because each Doctest is compiled as a crate and then is run. And the run part is mostly fine. The compilation part is not fine. I mean, you saw the previous talk, so you should be aware now. I said not anymore since the 2024 edition. We'll come back to that. You cannot test a non-public API. So if you want to test, for example, like you would like write how to say, unit test. You want to test your local function and everything, and you want to have, for example, developer documentation. Sadly, it doesn't work currently. It's a work in progress. Again, I will mention that a bit later. And the last part is, I'm very sad about that one, but hopefully it will be better in the future because we just made a new feature in RESTdoc that I do not mention in this talk. I should have. It doesn't have support from tools, so you cannot use RESTFMT on your Doctest. You cannot use Clippy and everything. Limitations, a bit annoying, but yeah. So the thing of making the Doctest so much faster was supposed to land in the 2024 edition. It did. We just forgot one little thing, is that we are using nightly only features for it to work. So sorry, it doesn't work. But luckily for us, or for you, it depends, we just made a fix that is backported to stable, so you should see 84.1 versions soon. Well, hopefully soon enough. By the end of this conference, maybe, who knows. So, now it's the show of table. So, how better is the merge doc test? So I ran and made some comparison. I took only good examples because otherwise there is no point. So on STD, it's 3 times faster. On this one, I have to admit that it's actually even better. It's just that some doc tests cannot be put into the merge doc test. So they are the ones slowing down the rest. If you exclude them, suddenly the number is much better. But we don't cheat in here, so here it is. Same for core, it's 4 times faster, so it's good. Sysinfo create 4 times, GEOS 8 times, and for GIF it's 38 times. I don't know how many doc tests they have, but what the hell. So now this is a little screenshot I took to show how it looks like when you generate for one doc test the merge doc test thing. As you can see, a lot of code. So it's a lot more useful when you have a lot of tests because this part doesn't grow bigger, only the rest, not this part. So yeah, you don't see it, but it continues down. So I will go back to some parts to explain to you how it works because it's always better when you know. So first, the merged doc test runner is compiling the whole merge doc test. Might explain why the merge doc tests are much better. The biggest part in the compilation for the doc test is mostly the linking part. If instead of linking X binaries, you only link 1, suddenly you have the very good show-off table I showed you. So that's what we did. However, it brings some technical issues that we need to solve that I will talk about a bit later. So first, we compile the doc test. And finally, we run the binary. So at this point, everything is good. Now the binary calls libtest with the list of all the doc tests to be run. Libtest runs each test in its own thread. For now, everyone is still following. And each doc test now restarts itself into its own process. Because you see, lucky for us, there is an explanation just right now. So while running each doc test into a new process, the answer is because in case the process panic, you don't want to kill all doc tests, just this one. So that's what we do. The other thing is that we don't want exit to actually exit everything, just the current test. I know people use exit in their doc test. I don't judge your thing. Another one was actually discovered later on is you can have statics, like I suppose everyone here used logger at some point. I hope, I don't know. Well, they use the statics, and you don't want this static to be, because you need to actually run log init, and if you run log init more than once, suddenly people are very unhappy. Well, that's pretty problematic when you want to actually document that in your log crate. Yeah, that's how we discover it. Basically, a log broke in terrible ways. So now it's fixed. You can run it. It's a thread running its own process in the list of threads. It's fine. So now let's take a look at the merge Doctest itself. So a bit before you saw the code was literally four lines long. Now it's a bit more tricky. So first we have the main function, not to be confused with the actual main function, which will be marked with start function. That's an attribute. You are not supposed to use it, but you can. So we now have the main function that will call the hello world. And to allow the lib test to know where this code is supposed to be, we declare in each of the modules, in here it's called the doctest 0, constant named test, which declares the lib test test. Literally, it's literally just a type, and we have a list of that. And at the end of the file, we have underscore underscore doctest underscore 0 colon test, and a list of them if there are more of them. And we just provide that all in one go to libtest. Funny story, when we tested it on STD, we discovered the stack has limits. So yeah, that was terrible. That forced me to learn new things I didn't want to know about. Anyway, you cannot do some things, and it's terrible. So, some limitations about the merge doctest, because there are. I mentioned that for the STD. For example, some code attributes on the doctest are not supported, like terstar harnest and compile fail. Of course, if you want to test that your doctest is failing compilation, but want to have merged doctest, you cannot have a merged compile fail thing, because otherwise you don't know which one is actually failing, and I don't want to parse RC output even for you. So that's it. Some options are not supported, like show output, because when you have a few hundred doctests at the same time and you do show output, I suppose you know what happens. SAD panic location color. This one might not be well known around outside the compiler, but it allows you to know very exactly which line of which file this panic was created from. In Doctest, it mostly works. It's fine, because we provide the line, and the Doctest doesn't change. It's always the same size. However, since now we are merging Doctest, the line will be fuzzy, and the file, let's not mention it. If any of the merged doctest failed to compile, then none is run as a merged doctest, which is the thing that allowed everyone, included me and the ROSDoc team, to not realize that our feature was actually not working, because it was just saying, yep, doctests are running, and no one realized. And someone came to us about, why is it still slow? You told us that it was super fast and everything, and you even have the shove table and everything. And I was like, yeah, what is going on? And we looked, and oh, yeah. So yeah, no, nightly features on the stable doesn't work. So for explanations, that's it. Oh, maybe actually I can explain how we did that. So now we keep the nightly only features in a crate, very small one, which declares the functions that are common to the doctest that are used, which use the nightly things. We compile that, and on the other side, we have your code, and we compile that too. And this one is using a very fun thing called the Rust Bootstrap environment variable. And we can say, yeah, you're stable, but please don't act as stable. Please allow me to do my dirty things. That's how we did it. And the other is literally your code. And if you use nightly only things, then it will fail to compile as it's supposed to be. That's how we achieved it. And that's what will be released very soon, hopefully. And the last one is not really much of an issue, because I'm not sure many people use the edition, the doctest attribute, but they need to be grouped by edition. That's mostly an implementation detail. It's not really an issue. So, in case you want to force your doctest to not be run as a merge doctest, we added the standalone crate attribute that is used just like this. So you can still continue to do your very weird stuff with location color and ensure that it still comes from the line number 4 and everything. So Now, what's next? Hopefully smaller generated mesh Doctest. I mean, you saw it's long. We need to do better, because if we make it much faster, but you don't have enough RAM to run it, not useful. And yeah, the big thing that I mentioned is binary crates and private items Doctest. That one has been very much asked. Very much asked. So yeah, I'm working on it, please stop. So about the binary crates private item Doctest, there are multiple approaches. Each is complicated in its own way. We can take your crate, expand all the macro in it, or the proc macro too, or the derive, everything. We expand it. Then we look at the Doctest from there. We replace them and generate a unit test. And then we rest a resi-dash test, and that's good. So if it sounds terrible, that's because it is. You're welcome. We could add a new Doctest flag to resi in two ways. First would be for resi to be aware that the doct commands are actually attributes that they are supposed to read, process, and do stuff. So basically move ResDoc code inside the resi, because why not? You know, moving maintenance to someone else is always nice for the one losing maintenance. So once we have that, we can say, okay, you expand that just like you do for the hashtag, well, let's be simple, the hashtag test attribute. And we could create a ResDoc attribute like that, a ResDoc test, Doctest, I don't know, something. We could do that, but I expect the compiler team to not be so happy about that, so I suppose this option will not work. So I think I will need to go back to the first one and actually do the terrible thing and pray no one ever look at this code ever again. That's the usual thing. So thank you for listening. It was very fast speed, as much as I could. You can find my contact information, socials and stuff. I still have Twitter. Okay, so yeah. Thank you for listening.